This week in the bonus round, we're in Santa Monica with Andy McNamara, Sophia Tong, and Ben Howard to talk about E3 2015. What can we expect from Sony PlayStation? New games, new announcements? We'll preview it all right now in the bonus round. Hey everybody, I'm Jeff Keighley, and welcome to the bonus round. We are counting down to E3, and this week we're live in beautiful Santa Monica, probably the nicest setup we've ever had for the bonus round, because we're here for the pre-E3 Judges Week, and I'm here with three of my fellow E3 judges to talk about this week PlayStation, what they're going to do for E3 2015. So joining me is Ben Howard from GameSpot, Sophia Tong from Games Radar Plus, and returning to the bonus round, Andy McNamara from Game Informer. So, guys, the countdown is on to what I think is going to be a pretty big E3 this year with a lot of big news and announcements. Of course, the press conferences on Monday, June 15th are these big moments with tons of suspense and surprise about how these companies are going to wow us. Ben, let's start with you. What are you expecting from Sony? What do you want Sony to do at E3?
Well, I think in terms of big, tentpole AAA exclusives, they don't have a huge amount left to reveal, right? I mean, they have Uncharted due for next year. I think there's a chance we may see a Gears of War now.
Gears of War for PlayStation.
I've got a War announcement.
This would be big. Slip that in there.
I think we might see Gran Turismo, but I think at this stage they're so far ahead they don't actually need first-party exclusives at this stage. I think what they'll continue to do, which is what they did very successfully last year, is make third parties seem like their first party titles. I mean, you look at the way they surrounded Destiny last year, they made that title seem like it was theirs.
Yep, Destiny, Grand Theft Auto, coming up with Batman. You're right. They got a lot of games, and I think you make a good point that Sony's in a good position now that they don't really have to prove a lot. One thing, Sophia, that some people have said is with Uncharted moving to next year, what does Sony have for the rest of this year in terms of a big game? It sort of was like last fall. They didn't really have that big anchor game for the holidays. Microsoft, clearly this year's going to have a bunch of stuff with Halo and Tomb Raider. Is that something that you think they're going to need to address at E3, like a lack of first-party software?
Yeah, I guess for Sony, they've been doing so well. It seems like even last year, all they had to do was really show up.
Right.
And we were probably expecting something from Guerrilla Games to say something this year, because they mentioned a few years back that they have a non-Killzone IP coming out.
Okay.
So maybe that. I mean, every year I'm always hoping for something about The Last Guardian, but I mean, highly unlikely.
You've given up hope now?
I was like, maybe this year, maybe, or TGS, I don't know.
Well,
but I'm always holding out hope.
One day we're going to
One day, my prediction.
What year was that
happen.
I think E3 was like 2008 or 9, maybe?
It was a long time
ago.
So.
Yeah, I think it was the same year as Agent, whenever that was. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I agree with you. It's like they're in a good position. Andy, though, Sony always wants to show up. They want to surprise people. They've got a lot of great teams, a lot of great content. I mean, do you think this is a year where they can surprise people, or do people know what's coming?
Well, I mean, the art of the E3 press conference is to surprise people.
Yes.
I mean, that is the goal of every team that puts together this show. So I mean, I think there are things there that will get people excited. I mean, I really think we're going to see some cool stuff. I think just like anything, I mean, when we talk about the battle between Sony and Microsoft and say, oh, they're going to have Halo or they're going to have the next Gears or anything like that. I mean, one thing I think I've learned the last 2 years, as with the new kind of development cycles we have in place, I mean, no game is guaranteed to make any window these days. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like 100% that it's going to be there. I think certainly Microsoft may have a little bit more like kind of established IP power going in, but I think the power and the kind of allure of Sony has been that they have gone to a lot of their global studios, had some inventive and different titles that they brought to the market. And I think that's kind of their flavor that they'll, I think, perhaps rely on. I mean, we'll see, like you said, Uncharted will be there, and everyone will leave going, wow, Uncharted's really amazing. But I would not be shocked to see, something like Fallout, the next Destiny, something like that, that you'll go, hey, we're going to have a bundle for this come this October to highlight that title. And they can definitely ride through not having a first-party title and really hitch their wagon to something that's big in the third party and be okay. And I think, to your point, the Guerrilla game or other titles from those studios, I think we're going to get some taste of things that are going to define 2016, and I think a lot of those will be IPs that people are familiar with and want to know more about.
And also, they do have, a fair number of first-party studios that haven't really been that active. I mean, over the years, you look at even Media Molecule. I mean, they were like at the PlayStation 4 reveal with that sort of, I don't know what it was kind of tech demo. We haven't heard much from them. You know, as you mentioned, Gran Turismo. It's like they've been quiet for a little while. We haven't seen what they're going to be able to do.
It's about time for another, at least a tease. I think we might see.
Yeah, and Sony does have. You said God of War. I mean, so many of these studios that they could be working on things, and as Andy knows, I mean, the art of the press conferences, even if you get only 15 or 30 seconds of something, it's still massive news and exciting. I mean, you look at last year with Zelda, it was like, took 30 seconds, and that was like the biggest thing of E3. So you're right, it'll be interesting to see what they have to talk about. Now let's talk about another aspect of Sony, the handheld space. Something like Vita, I mean, do you think that even still becomes like a focus of E3? Is that something they push on, or they sort of lighten the touch?
Poor Vita.
Poor Vita? Oh,
probably going to
pour a little out for Vita right there.
I know. Well, I mean, I really like the console,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of developers, they know that it's not exactly the culture in the U.S. Like we don't really commute the way like other countries do. So I can see why people aren't taking it with them on the go all the time. But I mean, I really like it, and I wish people would develop for it.
It's a great device, and I think when we came out of E3 last year, we were like, well, why are they not talking about Vita? But then they did start to talk about it again through Gamescom, and particularly at PlayStation Experience. You know, it wasn't center stage, but they have started to talk about it, and I think maybe they're getting to a place where they're happy with it being this place where they can push out the indie titles that are coming with Plus. They can do crossplay, and they can make it that I don't think you're going to see a lot of these big AAA franchises coming in ports. The Borderlands 2 port was largely failed, I think, because of the technical limitations of the platform. So I think, rolling it out as a place where indie titles, their immense slate of indie stuff that they've got coming out can live and be really portable. I think that's a good place for it.
Vita, is that something that the guys at G-Office, they want to hear about, Andy, or it's?
Well, I mean, I think Vita is like, I think consumers and even gamers and like the game industry and even the console industry is getting used to this new idea of like it not being device-centric, right? And I think the Vita is one of those things that like, are they going to go on stage and tell you all these stats about why Vita's awesome? I mean, no, right? And we don't want to hear it, and I don't think that matters. But to Ben's point, like, they're going to show us, I think, like they normally do, like their support for the indie games market. In a lot of ways, those titles tend to be, I don't want to, like, it's not simplistic as a bad thing, you know what I mean? I think they're going for style and some of the things like that in the way that they kind of focus their games versus the big AAA titles. Not so much how many polygons can you create, right? And so, those titles really kind of live on the Vita, I think. And I think the Vita has more titles. Every time we go, there's just nothing coming out on this. Oh, wait, here's 25 titles that indie guys are making that are also going to play on the Vita that, I want to play on the Vita, right? So I think they're going to make those games. They're going to help push those games. They're going to help support those games, and that's one of the things that Sony's done well. And I think they're going to also be available on that device for people that want to play them on there, and certain games fit better than others. But I mean, I agree. The day of like, hey, I'm going to do a big blockbuster Vita game, that's not happening, right? That's not happening. But I think it's still got a market there, just because I think they're going to make games. They're going to find places to put them, and that's a place.
Now, another thing that's going to be big for Sony, we think at E3, is Project Morpheus. Revealed over a year ago at GDC. They had an update this year at GDC. They've already said it's not coming out this year, coming out in early 2016. VR, Sophia, obviously, like everyone's talking about it. How important do you think Morpheus is going to be to Sony's story at E3?
I think it's going to be a part of it. I just wonder how they're going to demo that, because it's an immersive experience. I tried it last year. It made me sick. But it's really cool, all the different ideas that can spawn out of that. But I'm curious, like, how do you actually demo that in a way? It's not like AR where it's the reality is actually involved in there. But it'll be interesting to see. Is
VR going to be a big story, Ben, do you think, at E3?
I do. I think this is going to be its coming out party. I mean, we've seen a lot of tech demos the last few years. I mean, Oculus are ramping up for pre-orders later this year for 2016. The Valve HTC device is going to be out later this year or early next year. And so I think it, HoloLens, I don't know, I throw HoloLens in there, but it feels like it's not really the same thing. But I think Morpheus has a lot of potential because it works with existing hardware, right? I mean, even Oculus, we've had it running in the GameSpot office. You need a pretty beefy PC to be able to run a lot of those experiences. The question is going to be who's got the killer app for VR, because right now it's a lot of interesting tech demos. All we've seen with Morpheus is the shark stuff and the little bits and pieces, very thin slices. How does this work for longer gameplay experiences? Because even those who are enthusiastic, and I count myself as one of them, any more than like a 20-30 minute experience, and you start to feel very fatigued.
Right.
So that's a big question they have to answer, I think.
I wonder, like, are they going to have existing games? There's going to be sort of some augmented version, like Uncharted will have, something you can do in VR as, a side project. No one's going to want to play, I think, through, Uncharted for, 15 hours in VR.
Well, it's interesting how they're going to market that. It's like, how do you convince people to want to put this thing on their face for extended periods of time?
Right, and that's the thing is games the killer app? Is there something else? I mean, it's like, is it chat? It's like, who knows what that's ultimately going to become. Andy, do you guys obviously see a lot of stuff leading into E3. Do you think there's going to be a lot of new, like, exciting VR content at E3?
I don't think we've had a good insight into like the amount of VR content that's going to be there, and I think part of that has to do. I really feel like there's a giant game of kind of chicken going on in the VR space. Is really the way I look at it. I think everyone wants to be in the game, right? No one wants to be late to the party. I mean, I even think something like, in my opinion, I think Microsoft was aggressive with showing HoloLens. Is going to be aggressive bringing HoloLens this year because they just want to be in the conversation. I don't know that they actually want to be in the game, which is like actually have a consumer unit out there that you're selling. And I do get the sense too with Morpheus as well that like it is a thing they're going to do. They're going to put some resources into it, see if they can find what that killer app is, find where the applications work. We've seen like filmmakers do some interesting things with VR, and they're finding some ways to do that. But a lot of the experiences from Valve's experience, which I think was one of the best ones I've seen, it's still it's an experience, right? We haven't quite broken through to like what makes it interactive, what makes it special, how do we deal with movement, how do we deal with just the various things that people come to expect, perhaps from from interactive entertainment. So I expect them all to be there and to all be obviously pretty loud, I think, to some degree. But I would actually say Sony will probably announce a price for Morpheus, and I say we probably don't get a release date yet. And I think we don't get that release date because peripherals have proven since the dawn of video game time that if they are not in the box, they are not successful. And I don't think that starts the VR train where anyone wants it to be, even Sony, right? Or anyone else where they want this to go. That gets them to that point. I think it's going to be a great demo again this year. We're going to see some cool demos that are short, but I don't know if we're quite ready for prime time yet, specifically the PlayStation one, because I do think it has some like horsepower issues versus that tanky PC that's really running the high-end Oculus stuff. So we'll see.
Is there anything else you think Sony could do as like a one more thing, like unexpected? I mean, this is a year where you could see like a refresh of the hardware. There's lots of rumors like at least Xbox One might have a slimmer form factor. Is that the kind of stuff they talk about at E3? Is there anything else that could surprise people beyond just a lot of games, Ben?
I think we could see some iterative stuff in terms of larger hard drives, and I think this goes across the platforms actually. But I think I don't think it's going to be a price drop at this point. I mean, why would they? I mean, they're way ahead of the game. And so no, I think they'll just chart a steady course. Actually, I don't.
Lots of great games, and that's what sometimes these press conferences are years where it's all about new hardware introductions and all that. This year it feels like Sony's just going to show a lot of great content.
Well, yeah, exactly. I don't even think they need to talk about View or their TV services or any other over-the-top stuff they've got going on. I think they've got plenty of other spaces to talk about that, be it CES or the PlayStation experience. I think they'll make E3 all about what they're very, very good at, and that's why they've led the way with their press conference the last few years. I think.
Exactly. Lots of great games. Sophia, is there a big game for you? Is Uncharted, is that the one that everyone's looking forward to right now, you think? That could be like that game of the show level title?
I'd say so. I mean, everyone's been looking forward to that, and maybe we'll see something from Battlefront to impress.
Yeah, Star Wars, it sounds like they have some kind of relationship with Sony, I guess, which I would probably be at the EA press conference too, but that's going to be a big one. Andy, you guys are always looking at like the biggest games out there. You had Uncharted on your cover. I mean, do you think, is Uncharted 4 going to be like is that right up there already for sort of game of the show before they've even shown anything?
Well, I mean, for Sony fans, I mean, I think if you're a hardcore Sony fan, PlayStation faithful, I mean, you have already ordained the next Uncharted, the greatest game of all time, right? So I don't think there's any question to that. And the game, it looks phenomenal when you hear about the tech and what Naughty Dog is putting and pouring into this game. I certainly wasn't shocked to hear of a delay of the title out of this year. But that's good, right? Don't ever think a delay is bad, right? We want this game to be great. I think Sony needs this game to be great. Not that they're losing any kind of battle, but I mean, I think they really want to show what console gaming is all about.
And build that franchise, right? Because I still feel like, you know, Uncharted is still not the level of like a Halo or GTA, and it's like this could be the game that would really sort of put it up there. Obviously, Naughty Dog is going to come with, you know, what we think is an amazing demo, but there's going to be a lot of competition this year as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they want to show the diversity of the PlayStation 4 and show that there's a lot of games for anyone and what type of player you are. I mean, not everyone's into this stuff, but I mean, we're going to see, I'm sure we'll see Call of Duty. Right. You know what I mean? I think Battlefront is going to play a big part in what we see coming forward. I mean, right now the world is vibrating Star Wars. Do you know what I mean? Globally. I mean, you could even say, even if they got no other title, but had some exclusive content, even for Battle. And it's going to be that is going to be something that draws in gamers, and I think it worked well for Destiny having exclusive levels. Maybe they repeat that performance with more exclusive content with the Destiny group. Yep. There's a lot of opportunity for them to show why PlayStation's an option, and I think we will probably see them hop on that train. I mean, you know, EA's had a long-standing relationship with Microsoft, particularly at launch. But
I also was curious because Battlefront, I guess, is still like will be in the EA Access program, but Sony's got a relationship with them, and everyone wants a piece of Star Wars, I guess.
Yes, it doesn't matter what your previous things were. We will bid more for Star Wars at this point.
All right, well, we will find out. The Sony press conference is going to happen live on Monday, June the 15th at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, so make sure to watch it live. We'll be back next week to talk more about E3 and a look at what we expect from Xbox.